Hey everybody, welcome back to game 3 of the 329 sealed event up at Fantasy Flight. Andy coming off of one very strong win and one very unfortunate mistake by his opponent. Going into the third round, he is currently 2-0, going up against Grant, who is playing Dijk, the Tidebreaker of Harbingers.
Yeah, Andy 2-0 with two wins that are about as different from each other as you could hope to find. The first one, in control the whole time, generating heaps and heaps of amber and winning the game very quickly. The second one, losing in every regard but for the final score on an unfortunate mistake from his opponent. Uh, so coming into round three, we'll see Andy up against another opponent another player who will be 2-0. And this deck that Grant's packing has some of my favorite cards in it, with a really robust and armor-filled Sanctum lineup, lots of creatures, and even a round table to get a little bit more value out of those strong fighters. He's backing that stuff up with some interesting utility in Dis with Control the Weak, Fear, Gongoozle, small amount of Amber control with a couple of Tourettes, and some upgrade cards to a Flame Wreathed, which can make those powerful Sanctum guys even more difficult to remove.
Yeah. So we guys, we did cheat. We actually did look at this deck. Just because the name was so gall darn weird, we had to see what was in it, and I gotta say, if this deck hits the open market, I would not be afraid to give Grant a couple of bucks to add it to my collection.
I'll certainly be looking for him the next time I'm at Fantasy Flight. See if this one's up for trade. I see in his opening hand that round table, a bulwark, and what looks like a Sergeant Zachiel. So poised for a very powerful first Sanctum turn.
Yeah, it looks like Andy is going first. Unfortunately, taking a look at his hand, saying, you know what, I'm not seeing anything I want. I'm not seeing anything that I can use right away. So we're going to go digging again to find that one card that I really feel is going to be able to let me put my best foot forward.
Yeah, and his deck one that does have quite a few good first cards. He's got the Terror, he's got Toxin, he's got Flaxia, he's even got Hunting Witch. All cards that you love to see in your opening hand. Things that can immediately give you a quick advantage or pose some tricky questions to your opponent right off the bat.
Unfortunately, it doesn't look like he got any of those cards. So I believe Andy is going to be playing from behind right off the bat.
We see that he's got a Terror that he'll drop down. Oh,
A Screaming
and
Cave.
playing a Screaming Cave, one we haven't seen yet.
Excellent. I love it. And I really think that Andy is going to start utilizing that Screaming Cave as soon as possible, just to start digging for answers. Doubly so as soon as that Bulwark hit the table.
And interestingly, he's going to choose to put Zakiel right there next to Bulwark. Zakiel, someone who will get value on his play effect and will lose value quickly afterwards. And knowing that Bulwark will give that armor bonus to his neighbors, I'm surprised he opted not to leave that open armor benefit spot available for the next turn.
Agreed. Something along the lines of the Tabris or even Pingle Who Annoys.
Yeah,
And
and Andy
taking a look
leaving
at
the
that,
play effect on the
saying,
field.
nope, I don't want
Leaving
to
that
deal
one.
with any of that. Taking
Yep.
Hike.
And using those good control cards in Untamed. Untamed, not a house that's often thought of as having powerful control tools. People often look at it as a explosive amber generator or prize it for its ability to forge keys out of the forge a key step of your turn. But a house that does have some powerful control tools with Fog Bank, Nocturnal Maneuver, and of course the big two being Lost in the Woods and Nature's Call, two of the most powerful targeted removal spells in the game.
I'd say that Nature's Call is even just a great card to see if you are setting up a big hunting witch turn. You can drop, one or two dust pixies, return them to your hand, and then either sit on them or drop them again. Two dust pixies with a hunting witch is an instant key unless your opponent has an answer.
Absolutely. In addition to being powerful removal, flexible enough to be used for those explosive amber turns as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that Mind Barb pulling a regrowth, but we know that Andy not looking to play Untamed on this turn anyhow, as he had just played it on the last turn,
Yeah, taking
and
a look at
has
his
no Untamed creatures in his discard pile.
yep,
No creatures at all.
taking a look at everything he's got right now, saying, you know what, this is not working for me. Really utilizing that Screaming Cave to sculpt his hand, or at least try to pull something better.
Yeah. And Grant moving right back to Sanctum. We'll see another Bulwark come down.
Interesting. No, that
Zakiel to fight Charette and mistakenly adding damage to him.
Charette is a 4. Zakiel, I believe, only has 1 armor.
He has 3, and I was mistakenly thinking that the round table gave him a 4th armor, but it in fact gives him 1 additional power, not 1 additional armor.
Correct.
And with a Hollowed Blaster coming down, he'll be able to heal that up later on, if he chooses.
Yeah, Grant, I did see just pulled his Keyhammer. So I don't know if this is going to end well for Andy.
Andy moving into Shadows. That Asp will be able to do very little.
That Asp will be able to take out the Bulwark unless it is taken out this turn.
Yeah. Grant apparently discarding Glorious Few on his turn, seeing that he's taking control of this board and not planning to give it back.
We have seen Andy play from this position before, just like last game, and he was able to really punish his opponent. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
unfortunately, Grant just threw down a smash, stunning his Asp.
Yeah, alongside a Pingle and a Grenade Snap. And I think it may be too much to hope for that Andy might find a second opponent who will take such a commanding position and then give away the result.
I think you may be onto something.
Back into Dis, and really struggling to find those big turns that he was able to pull off in his first and second games. We haven't seen him be able to play more than 2 to 3 cards per turn.
No, he has really been digging and just trying to find anything that will work for him right now. And it just looks like he's doing his best, but it is just not working for him.
Yeah, that Hand of Dis coming out again, and once again removing that Bulwark.
Andy trying to decide where to go. Looks like he's got a good chunk of untamed cards in his hand.
And he'll need to play those quickly in order to start cycling cards and find some big shadows or big Dis turns. And in doing so, he is likely to be conceding a key very soon. We'll see if Grant will remember to trigger this Pingle Who Annoys to put damage on each of his creatures.
Well, we have found that those static effects, such as Pingle, Speed Sigil, Autocannon, those are things that even veteran players will sometimes miss the triggers on.
Absolutely. Often forgotten.
Mm-hmm. I will never forget a speed sigil, however. Of course, I'm sure, now that I've said that, we will find a game.
We'll be looking out for that the next time we see you on the cast.
All right, well, I'm calling it here. I will never
Yeah.
forget a speed sigil.
Well, as soon as you do, I'll be there to watch. Triggering that loot the bodies 2 times, reaping with Pingle, taking out both of Andy's creatures, moving into check, denying Andy. Well, he had no amber in the first place,
Yeah.
so just throwing away that snib as the only one that was available to fight.
Yeah, I think, and he gave that up for the succubus, correct?
That's correct.
I think that was probably a fair trade.
I think so as well.
Andy going untamed, throwing down a hunting witch. Let's see if he can capitalize on it. What is he going to do? Throwing down a Niffle Ape. And a Phylaxia, not getting the Phylaxia to
And he
trigger,
will not trigger.
unfortunately. But he does get 2 Ember off of that. Fogbane coming down, allowing that Hunting Witch to stick around for 1 more turn. Thankfully.
Yeah.
Oof. Nocturnal Maneuver.
And finally able to play multiple cards out of a single turn.
Showing us just how fast this deck can be once it starts to get its pieces in order.
Yeah. And again, he's left his opponent with a clear choice with the creatures available on the table, instead of leaving 1 Sanctum and 1 Bravnar creature unexhausted and ready to reap. He instead leaves up 2 Bravnar creatures that will both be able to reap.
Yeah. Grant throwing down a cannon. I believe that Hunting Witch's days have rapidly run out, unfortunately. Even if Andy has the opportunity to throw down another Fog Bank, all that's going to do is just tell Grant, it's like, hey, you have to go Brobnar again, reap to get 5 Ember, and I'm going to shoot your Hunting Witch.
Yeah, and with 5 Brabnar creatures on the board, I'm sure Grant is just as happy to call Brabnar over and over until Andy's able to reap them, which he has shown so far almost no ability to do.
I think that
we see that some Sanctum cards have moved back into Grant's hand.
Yeah, I think that Pingle is doing a little bit more work than Andy realizes, softening up everything as it hits the table. Both the Niffle Queen protecting those Niffle Apes, taking them out of cannon range.
Yeah, and moving him into check. Reaping for 3. He knows that he's not in a position to fight for this board. He wants to race. At 9 Amber, but down a key and staring down the barrel of a powerful Brabnar board state.
Unfortunately, I don't believe... No, Andy does not know that Grant is sitting on a key hammer, nor does he have any response to it, unfortunately. So I think Grant is going to do the right thing.
Yeah, and the Fire Spitter into the Niffle Queen will clean out most of this board, taking out the Queen herself, the Hunting Witch, putting 2 more damage or 1 more damage on each of those apes, and on the Flaxia, which will be an easy target for that cannon. This will get maximum value.
I think at this point it's just going to be Grant doing some cleanup work, reaping for 4 and saying, what do you got? What can you do to stop me? I am here. I am in your face.
The Snib will take out the Flaxia.
Interesting choice. I would have
Take
kept
2
that
from Andy.
Snib around. I think that was probably a missed play.
Yeah, he's used those snibs as his fighters to take out Andy's creatures, Andy's small creatures, without giving up his own larger ones, and has not taken great advantage of their on death effect of destroying 2 amber.
No, and unfortunately, those are creatures that do require a little bit of finesse and nuance. As odd as that sounds coming out of Brobnar, but they are more of a finesse creature than a giant hammer that you can wield. Andy going Diz, throwing down a Terror and a Toxin. Not able to capitalize on the Terror's play effect.
No, he's yet to trigger one of those terrors, and he's
Yeah.
bounced the lone knight out of
Oh.
Jack's
Oh.
battle
Andy.
line, and
Andy.
Andy calling Dis.
Calling Dis, we are going to see that Keyhammer come down. Andy will admit that there are times where he is just notoriously bad at calling for Control the Weak.
Yeah, we've seen him miss those shots on nearly every one of them so far in this event.
2 Charettes going down to take
And with
that
2
Key
Charettes
away.
and Flame Wreath to protect one of those Charettes.
Oh, that hurts.
And
That
with so
hurts
many
to
of Andy's
watch.
creatures damaged, that Flame Wreath is very impactful. And we know that he's holding that Zachiel. We see also that he has the Tabris and the Bulwark. He's ready to kill some guys as soon as he can move back into Sanctum. He has 3 amber. He's as well positioned to use any of his houses to threaten to end this game within the next 2 turns.
Absolutely. I think this was a great great example of a really fast deck that we've seen do solid work in the previous 2 games, just falling flat. And unfortunately, that is just the way the game goes sometimes. Andy throwing down a Relentless Whispers to get his Ember back off of that Charette and take one away from Grant, putting him back on a key. But is it going to be enough? Is he going to be able to keep this momentum going?
We'll trigger the Subtle Maul, discarding Pingle Who Annoys. Andy back on check for his first key, and will Grant see the opportunity to reach for 6, or will he continue to fight to control the board? He will. Here's the Bulwark. The Blaster heals. We'll follow it with Tabris, and the Zachiel will allow him to trade cleanly into any creature of Andy's while capturing. We'll see if he sees that play.
Looks like he does.
Taking out the Toxin for free.
Yeah, if Mac didn't have Elusive, no, Toxin was the right card to go after.
I think so as well. Toxin much more dangerous right now.
Yeah.
And I think a smart play here to stick with what works for him, rather than trying to reach frantically for 6 amber. He chooses to continue to control the board, and Andy in a worse position than he has been yet.
Looks like Andy's flipping through his discard pile, probably trying to figure out what to regrow. I don't think he has any answers in there that are going to allow him to get to where he wants to be. However, that's either a Fog Bank or a Lost in the Woods, so I do think that we're going to see an Untamed turn next.
And he needs to. He needs to get those threatening capture creatures out of there. He needs to get the 3 off of Charette and move to 6 as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
Ideally to 7, while also removing either the Tabris or the Sequus.
If he can send the Charette and the Tabris back to the deck. The deck being freshly shuffled. That's really going to put a damper on when Grant is going to be able to see those tools again. This is going. I think. We are looking at one of the key points in the game where Andy is either going to be able to turn this around, or if he's going to just say, yeah, I don't have the answers that I need, and we're just going to muddle along and do the best we can.
He's been thinking carefully about this. He's looking back through his discard pile. I'm not sure what he's looking for, but I don't think it's in there.
Well, you know, sometimes you just got to check your discard pile 3 or 4 times and hope that, you know, through the laws of quantum physics, one of the cards has changed.
Yeah, it's been known to happen.
Not for me, but for
No?
somebody. No.
Yeah. And he'll, Reaping with Mac, of course, able to do that on any turn.
Yep.
And there's the Lost in the Woods, cleverly using that. Charette and Tabris, as expected. And he'll remove that Flame Wreath as well. He'll be up to 7 Amber as he removes some of the Recursive Capture from Grant's board.
Yeah.
Will he be able to follow this up with some creatures?
Yeah, this is absolutely a make or break turn for Andy. And we're gonna see what happens. He's I feel like he's made the right plays so far. Putting down a monkey.
And those monkeys have been on the board just about all game, every game for Andy. We see him just constantly stuck playing one of the weakest cards in his deck. As he seems constantly to be putting these Niflapes on the board. And moving into check, threatening his second key, and we'll see how Grant responds to this. Knowing that he needs to get only to 6, that Andy has shown very limited ability to deny him those keys. If he can get to 6, he's likely to win this game on his next turn.
I noticed that he did have a Too Much to Protect and a Nerve Blast. So if Grant gets to 6, Andy may have the answers he needs, but he is definitely playing from behind.
I think I'm going Brobnar.
And Brobnar is the call from Grant.
Yeah,
with 2 creatures to reap. Will he be able to follow that up with some more creatures to continue to control the board?
Tango Noise looks like another Grenade Snib. Taking out the Niffle Queen.
And using the armor from the Bulwark to protect Smash so that he can survive.
Yeah, there's the Grenade Snib. Punching the monkey. Very unfortunate. Completely clearing Andy's board.
Although he will give up this second key.
He will, but he does have that Grenade Snib on the board plus a cannon, so at the very least he's going to be able to get 1 Amber and take Andy down 2. Grant is playing from an extraordinarily strong position, understanding how to capitalize on it. Really forcing Andy to eke every ounce of efficiency out of his deck right now. And I think he's doing a great job.
He's called Arise, played an Arise in Dis. We have not seen yet what house he will call.
I did see a Hunting Witch in there. Oh, going for the
He will opt for Dis. And with some strong disc creatures, also an opportunity to create a situation in which his opponent may go quite a bit over 6 amber by killing those turrets, potentially reaping for even more. He may find that that Grant will generate upwards of 9 or 10 amber in one turn, generating a ton of value from that potential too much to protect and nerve blast combination.
Yeah.
And he may have laid an expert trap here. And calling Sanctum, he will invite his opponent to reclaim that amber.
These are the games that I really like to watch and I really like to play, where it comes down to we're both on 2 keys and we are slugging it out. We have answers to everything that's coming down, and you don't know. I mean, 2 turns ago, we were ready to throw in the towel and say Grant has this hands down. Now we're looking at the board saying, you know what? Andy's got a good chance here. He might be able to pull it out.
Yeah, and that untamed turn, in which he was able to remove the Tourette and the Tabris, making the heads-up play of reaping with.
Looks like Grant is going to fall into Andy's
Taking
trap.
3 back, but will he be able to get over 6 to give Andy some value from that too much to protect? There's a Bulwark and a Sequus left on the board.
Bulwark into Succubus. Interesting choice to send Sequus into Toxin. Looks like he forgot to put 1 damage onto Sequus.
Sequus has 3 armor at
Sequus
this
indeed
point.
does have 3 armor because of the Grey Monk. Thank you. Andy going Shadows, dropping a Long Fuse Mines. We've seen how well that's worked out for him in the past. Unfortunately, with that Grey Monk next to Bulwark, I don't think it's he's going to get as much utility out of it as he expects to. He's got to deal with
Those
that
Long Fuse Mines, unlikely to get any work done.
Looks like Andy is just saying flat out, I'm going to do this, and you got to figure out how to stop me. Unfortunately, Grant has the Grenade Snip still on the board. A very solid answer. And Andy running that bad timing right out to the rule of 6.
Yeah, as the Pingle takes it down each time as it enters play.
And I was just like, okay, I'll do this 6 times, and then I'll just. Was it your Pingle, or was it the opponent's Pingle? The opponent's Pingle, and you're like, whoa, this is nice. And then I'll too much to protect for the Amber. Sure. And then
Oof.
I will.
Very risky play by Andy, throwing away all of his answers just to go straight up to 8, getting rid of a card.
Going for broke.
And I will end my turn and check.
And intelligently recognizing that his opponent is unlikely to use the Grenade Snib and the Sequus on the same turn. But we see a Tourette in the hand that is going to quickly ruin Andy's fun.
That's 3 damage to non-flank.
Looks like a lot of table talk going on right now.
Yeah, as they discuss the long fused mines. Yeah.
Yeah.
A card we don't see often. Grant thinking, how am I going to position this turret around those long fused mines?
Well, I think he has a couple of options. He could put it, yep, right there. Telling Andy flat out, if you want to use those long fuse mines, it's going to cost you. You are going to blow up my grenade snib, and you're going to lose 2 Ember.
Yep. And the mine barb to remove the Briar Grubbler.
Telling him to go untamed.
After seeing that untamed creature discarded. And with an Ember Imp on the board, limiting him to only 2 cards this turn.
Well, here's hoping Andy was able to pull another Lost in the Woods. He did just shuffle his deck. Unfortunately, it looks like the best he has is Nocturnal Maneuvers. Going back up to 6.
Let's go. Cypress, grenade snib.
Very intelligently saying flat out, Sequus, you're not welcome. Grenade snib, you can't suicide. And because Grey Monk is on the board, Grant is not going to be able to use that cannon to off his own grenade snib. One of the very few times we've seen this deck run into itself.
And Andy choosing not to trigger the long fused mines. And at 6 Amber,
this is a great
we'll see if Grant has an answer.
Looks like he has a Pandemonium in hand.
Gongoozle choosing not to use that to trigger his own grenade snib. So he must have another way of taking Andy off of check. Discarding Mac the Knife.
Pandemonium, all undamaged creatures capture 1.
Of which he has several, doesn't he?
Yeah. Taking just about, taking all of Andy's Amber.
All 6. Choosing to put some on his Amber Imp instead of the Bulwark. Reaping with Charette, he will move to exactly 6. And here is the opportunity to use the long fused mines.
Unfortunately, did I see another too much to protect in there? Andy might be able to pull this out yet.
He has reshuffled. But with only 2 cards available to play with that Ember Imp on board.
This might be a case where Andy, I don't know. I don't think he has an answer.
Okay, let's do this. We're going to go Shadows.
Andy calling Shadows really the only thing he can do.
Stealing 1.
Naughty to steal 1. I would not be surprised if he whispers his own naughty here. Whispering Pingle. Good call. Stealing another 1, gaining 1.
Then I'm going to one last job to purge.
Purging.
And one last job.
Stealing another 1.
Alive for 1 more turn, but not threatening himself. And we see that the strong Amber Denial tools are all back at the disposal for Grant.
Andy is just flat out saying, you know what, you may win, but I am going to fight you tooth and nail every single step of the way.
He's succeeded in taking him off of check yet again. And this deck showing that just as it can play fast, it can play slow. And surprising to me that he chose not to use the long fuse mines at the start of that turn to remove that grenade snib when it would have done no damage. Looks like a missed opportunity.
I think you may be right there. Unfortunately, that would have been just about the only thing he would have been able to get rid of. However, right now that is a pretty high value target. Tabris coming back down, along with a Raiding Knight to capture 1. That glorious few doing absolutely nothing this game. Sek was reaping to capture 1. Grant just saying, you know what, I'm going to reap for 5. Let's see what you can do. I think Andy just drew into a whole hand of discards.
And not finding the too much to protect that he needs.
No. He drew a whole hand of discards and found a hand of dis.
He's considering, does he have an answer? As Grant has gone this time to 10 amber.
Yeah, he is really punishing Andy for drawing this game out, which is just about the only thing you can do. Every time your opponent says, hey, I'm not going to let you have it, you just have to push back even harder and say, well, you know what? That may be the case, but I'm not done yet. Andy getting rid of that bulwark, taking away that Grey Monk's protection. Interesting choice. Charette going after the Ember Imp, taking away the 2-card restriction on Andy. But does he have an answer, or is he just playing it out? I do see a Charette in hand. And
Well, that will not be enough, will it?
No, it will not. Andy's got to deal with a total of 5 Ember right now.
Perhaps missing the chance of running this charrette into something that would allow it to come back and capture 3 instead of the 1 that it's holding. Of course, it needed to. Yeah. And Andy's seeing it finally. Saying, I should have used the Terror to kill the Ember Imp. I should have used the Charette to trade.
That was a great game.
And a long game, going almost 40 minutes. Right up to the time limit.
Yeah.
And taking his first loss. So 2-1, and moving into the middle bracket for his last round. They'll play someone else who is at 2 wins to 1 loss in the final round in just a moment.
All right. Thank you very much for sticking around, guys. Stay right where you are. The next one is right around the corner.